Hello, I'm Marcus Coward, and this is Wake Up New Bedford. I'm here with Brandan Burke, a New Bedford real estate agent with Amaral and Associates Real Estate. Okay. Hi.
How
Brandan.
you doing?
Yeah, no, good. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Excited to talk to the people.
Yes, sir. Okay. And so, first and foremost, how long have you been in real estate?
So I'm going on my 5th year now. So when I first started, I started with Alferez Realty. We then merged a few years ago with Amaral and Associates Real Estate, and I've been there ever since, and I love it.
Okay. And so, do you usually just work out of New Bedford or in the surrounding areas too, like Dartmouth and Fairhaven?
So I'm actually licensed in both Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and
cool.
I'm willing
Okay.
to, at this point in my career where I'm still in the relatively early stages, I'm still willing to, work anywhere where I'm needed. I kind of have like a client-first approach where it's like, if you need me and I'm licensed to work there, I'm going to work there. Or if I'm not licensed there, I'll find you someone that can help service you. So like for instance, right now I have a listing in Springfield, about 2 hours away, because I know the seller personally. So I was like, oh, she needs help. I have my license. I'll help her out.
That's cool.
Right?
Oh,
So,
that's great, actually.
Yeah. So that's where I work pretty much anywhere in Massachusetts and Rhode Island.
Has that been the furthest you've had to go in order to help a client?
No, actually. So my parents sold a house earlier last year in Williamstown, Massachusetts, which is 3 hours away.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm willing to travel.
How many times did you have to make that trip out there?
I mean, at least 10, at least.
Wow.
Yeah, at
That's
least.
okay.
Yeah, and I'm really underestimating it because I have a personal involvement in that.
Sure.
So I was involved in the renting it out, and we had it on Airbnb for a little bit, and we had to maintain the property a lot. Go up there, cut the grass, meet with tenants, fix issues and stuff like that. So I've been up there multiple times. But I went up into that area as a kid, so it's like kind of like a peaceful drive for us.
Sure.
So,
And so, what made you want to go into real estate?
So back in 2020, around the pandemic time, both my aunt and I decided that we wanted to start investing in real estate. And she's down in the DC area. So we both went and got our licenses. She because of her job and the fact that there's a conflict of interest, she's stopped practicing or paused it, and she's doing her job now. I stayed with it because I kind of like the idea of being able to help first-time home buyers achieve that dream, and I still do love that to this day. A transaction could be kind of a crazy process with going to showings and dealing with like the loan process and stuff like that. But I mean, if you have the right loan officer and the right realtor, you can get through that relatively stress-free. Yeah. So. Yeah, sorry.
Has learning about this process, has it been coming kind of naturally to you, or has it been something that you've really had to put in a lot of effort to learn?
I'd say that it definitely takes some effort. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people think that being a real estate agent is just opening doors and stuff like that.
Sure,
But,
sure.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of learning. We're required to do 12 hours of continuing education every 2 years. So there's definitely been a lot of learning from like zoning and contracts and laws and stuff like that we have to do. And then outside of like the class that you have to take in order to be a realtor, there's a lot of in the field training that you get from seasoned agents and stuff like that, and your broker. So there's a lot of learning. I'm constantly binging YouTube too, just to learn outside of it, just so I can be the best agent I can be for
Sure.
my clients.
Okay, so now diving into the process of how to get a home. You wanted to start with the home buying process. Okay, so what exactly does that mean? Okay, what does that look like?
So what that looks like is, obviously when you're gonna buy a house, it's a financial commitment, right? Whether you're gonna buy it cash or if you're gonna get a loan, right? So, it doesn't really make sense to start looking at houses unless you want to get a feel for the market and see what you like in a house. Like if you're brand new, by all means, go see a few open houses. You know, there's going to be open houses in your neighborhood. Go pop in. You know, take a look at it. Say, oh, okay, like I like the floors this kind, or I like, I like this kind of condition. I like this neighborhood, right? You can get a feel for it. But when you're actually serious about going to look at a house, very first step is to go get pre-approved. Right?
Okay.
Go talk to a lender. They're going to ask for your W-2s, your tax returns, your credit score, and stuff like that. They're going to assess your financial picture and then tell you, yes, you're ready, or no, these are the things you need to work on.
So in order to get pre-approved, do you just go to whatever bank you're hooked up with, like Bank of America, whatever?
So ideally, what you want to do is find an agent first.
Okay.
Talk to your agent. Your agent is going to have a list of lenders that they've worked with and that have had smooth processes with,
Sure.
and then they'll give you options so that whether you want to go see a credit union or you want to deal with like a mortgage broker that can kind of shop you around to try to find you the best rate.
Okay, so it's not even banks that we're looking to in order to pre-approve us.
So banks can pre-approve you, like
Okay.
like the local banks, your Citizens Bank, First Citizens Credit Union, stuff like that. They can, but they're usually doing like in-house loans. What I usually recommend is you talk to them, see what their rates are, and that you also go talk to a mortgage broker to see what their rates are, because they have access to different lenders, right? They don't lend themselves most of the time. Sometimes some of them do have in-house loans, but most of the time they're going to shop you around to different lenders that they work with so that they can get you the best rate.
And what would be an ideal rate, or maybe like the best rate you could hope for?
It always varies. It always varies. Like the rates change every day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, the best thing to do is just talk to your mortgage broker to see, hey, what are rates today? What are they looking like?
Okay.
But generally, right now, what I'm hearing is that they're generally in the 6 or 7%, somewhere in there. But like I said, it fluctuates, so it's best to check with the mortgage broker.
And when we're talking about rates, are these interest rates?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
interest rates. So basically, like your interest rate determines, along with other things, determines how much your monthly payment is going to be on your house.
Sure. Okay. So after you get pre-approved, what's next?
So after you get pre-approved, after the lender's taken the time to look at your financial documents, if you're good to go, they're going to issue what's called a pre-approval letter. And what that is that's going to show the amount that you're qualified to purchase. With that amount, I always recommend ask for an estimated monthly payment with that too, because
absolutely.
Right, just because you can technically afford it to them, that doesn't mean that it fits within your budget and they're comfortable with that payment.
Yeah.
So it's important to have that conversation with your loan officer as well. Then once those stars align, then you tell me, hey, this is what my budget is. Then I put you on my MLS system to get automatic emails sent to you within your criteria, and then we start looking. I get your showing availability, and then based on that availability, we'll go start looking at houses.
Okay.
That'd be the next step.
And so, how long should a new home buyer expect this whole process to take?
How long is this process? It depends, right? It depends on your budget, depends on the location that you want, and depends on multiple different factors,
Sure.
right? It could, like, if you want to range, you could be into a house within 30 to 40 days.
Okay.
Like,
Wow, that's a quick
30,
turnaround.
30 to 40 days, you could, but that's if like everything aligns. That means
Sure.
like you have an ideal budget. That means that you're not too specific about what you want.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But it's about that time.
Yeah, that's a good thing to bring up. For how many clients have you had so far, would you say?
Over 20.
Okay, sure.
Over 20.
And so, are those clients usually really specific, or are they kind of general, or somewhere in the middle?
Everybody's different, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Everybody's different, and that's the approach I try to take. And understanding that I have is like everybody's different. People are into different things. People are at different stages in their lives.
Yeah.
Right. Some people this may be their first home. This may be their fifth home.
Yeah.
Right. They may be looking for a house for them to live in. They may be an investor. Right. So those different types of people care about different things. So, and as a real estate agent, it's my job to basically understand different client avatars, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And understand like their wants and needs and what their specifics are.
And so, with these around 20 clients, are they usually on the younger side or older side, or even that's varied as far as for the age range that you've dealt with?
It varies.
Yeah.
It varies. Yeah, most first-time home buyers are in their 20s. 20. I know there's a statistic out there that the average first-time home buyer is 38, but I think that's like for financial reasons. But
Sure.
but for me personally, it's been mostly in their 20s, first-time home buyers.
And so people don't need necessarily.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. And so people don't necessarily need a lot of money already like in their pocket in order to buy a house, do they? Or how much would you like? Let's say if they were going to buy a house that was $500,000, okay, 500,000. How much should someone have in their bank account already to feel comfortable with buying a house like that?
So I don't usually give amounts, right? I know everybody wants the amount. Like,
Yeah.
How much should I save?
Makes things simpler. Yeah.
Right, it does. But what I tell people to do is this. So if you're going to go FHA, that's going to be a 3.5% down payment.
And what's FHA?
So FHA is Federal Housing Administration loan.
Okay.
So what that basically is it's a loan. A lot of people mistake it for a first-time home buyer loan, but what it is you can only use it one at a time.
Okay.
Right. So if you use FHA on one house, you could use it on another house. You just can't have two at the same time.
Sure.
So if you bought a house with FHA and you wanted to keep it, you would need to refinance that into a conventional loan, and then you can use FHA again.
Okay.
All right. So that's a common misconception. But basically, it's a loan that a lot of first-time home buyers use because it has a lower down payment.
Sure.
Than your regular conventional loan products. Even
Okay.
though conventional does have a 3% single-family program, like most people that go conventional are not putting 3% down.
Sure.
So the 3.5% down payment is what attracts a lot of people to the FHA.
Sure. Okay. And so now in the process, we left off at going to view houses, and then what would be after that?
So we go to view houses, right? And if I'm going on what I like to call the open house marathon,
Okay.
where
Yeah.
we're seeing a lot of houses in one weekend, I kind of do like a tournament style thing where like you'll see the first house and then you'll see the second house,
Yeah.
and then before we go to the third house,
Yeah.
you'll compare the first and the second house
Smart.
to each other,
Yeah, smart.
right? And then there'll be a winner, and then you'll compare that winner to the next house, and we
Yeah.
do that all the way until we get to the end.
Yeah.
Right? So then hopefully by the end of the weekend, you'll have a house that's your favorite, right? So then we're gonna talk about the offer, right? We're gonna look at, the determining factors. How many days on market does the house have, right? Did it just come on the market or has it been on the market for a month or two?
Yeah.
Right? What's the seller's motivations, right? If I'm going to be asking the listing agent questions like, okay, like what, why are they selling? Sometimes they answer, sometimes they don't. Why are they selling? How quick of a closing are they looking for? That type of thing. And then based on the information that I've received from the listing agent, I'll advise my client on, what, first I'll get their opinion on what they think. And then after that, if they ask for my opinion, I'll give them my professional opinion on like what would be a respectable offer.
Sure.
Right? So then I'll write up the offer. We'll either do it by hand or we'll do e-sign. And then I'll present the offer to the listing agent along with like your pre-approval and stuff like that because, listing agents and sellers, they want to see pre-approvals because they want to make sure that your buyer can actually close the deal.
Okay.
So that would be the next step after that.
And so now I'm just thinking about, so that's essentially the process. Okay.
Up
then-
until that point, yeah.
Okay, wait, what comes after that?
Yeah, so after that, so if the offer is accepted,
Sure.
then if there was a home inspection in the offer, which I almost always recommend home inspections.
Okay,
I know
absolutely.
during COVID time, a lot of people were waiving them because they were desperate to get into houses. But when you do that, you risk the potential for problems to come up down the line that you didn't see during the showing, right? I'm a real estate agent. I've been for 5 years now, so I kind of know what to look for. But at the same time, I'm not a home inspector. So certain things that may have been hidden or may have been overlooked are going to get picked up by that home inspector. So I usually recommend doing that. So that's usually the next step after you get your offer accepted. You do the home inspection. It's usually a lot of them happen on the weekends because people have to work and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
the home inspectors I work with are pretty flexible. So you do the home inspection. It takes about like 2 to 3 hours. And then they're just going to go through all the systems, the electrical, mechanical, the roof, looking at the windows, just making sure everything works within the home and everything's sound. They're going to look at the structure, things like that. And then they'll give you a report usually within 24 to 48 hours after the inspection. We'll review the inspection report together. You'll let me know if there are any concerns that need to be addressed. And then from there, you have a few options. You can either move forward because there was nothing in there that was too concerning. You could back out, which is usually like the last resort.
Yeah.
You can ask for repairs from the seller, which is like the next last resort, is because you don't know the quality of the work that's going to be done.
Yeah.
And then you can ask for a price reduction. And then what we usually do if they want to negotiate is negotiate a credit, a closing cost credit, where the seller contributes towards your closing costs, so that saves you money in your pocket at closing, so that you can go go ahead and then address those problems.
Sure.
Right, and then make sure that it's done right. So after that, so let's say we negotiated and then everybody's come to terms, right?
Sure.
And then after that, it's pretty much like that's pretty much like the bulk of the hardest part, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just getting to that point where we're ready and we're past home inspection. After that, purchase and sale agreement is signed. So there's two contracts. There's like two main contracts in Massachusetts that get signed by my buyer to buy a house, right? So there's the offer, which is the contract to purchase. That basically, so that's the document that we use to submit the offer to the seller. And then once that's accepted and signed by the seller, we do the home inspection. Home inspection is done, then we move on to what's called the purchase and sale agreement. So that's like the main set in stone agreement type of thing, right? And it's never set in stone until it's closed, but that's the hard agreement, right? So after home inspection happens and we're done negotiating, then we move on to the purchase and sale agreement. And that's usually drafted either by the listing agent's office or an attorney. So that gets signed, and I may be over-explaining this, but I want to make sure I explain it in detail.
Yeah.
Thank you. So purchase and sale is signed, and then it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. The lender is going to be asking for documents, some more like the verification of employment, stuff like that. He's going to have things for you to sign, and then I'll have a weekly check-in with you just to make sure everything's all good, and to answer any questions that you have. And then the bank's going to order an appraisal. They're going to send an appraiser out to the house, but the buyer's not involved in that at all. They just want to make sure that what they're investing in makes sense and they're not overpaying for the property. And then, from a client standpoint, next thing will be the final walkthrough. And what that is basically we want to just make sure that the house is the same as when you saw it, and the seller didn't leave anything behind that they weren't supposed to.
Sure.
And that usually happens either the day before closing or the morning of. And then we meet at the attorney's office the day of closing, and then you sign paperwork, bring the final check, and then you get the keys, and then you own the house.
And that's the process.
That's the process.
Okay.
Yep.
So you are associated with Amaral and Associates Real Estate.
Correct.
Okay. So can a real estate agent be solo, or do they have to join a real estate agency in order to sell houses?
So in Massachusetts, you're required to be a salesperson. That's the technical term for a real estate agent in Massachusetts. You have to be a real estate agent for 3 years, and then once you've done that, you take another course and you take another test, and then you can become a broker, and that's when you can go out on your own.
Okay. So is that something that interests you? Does every real estate agent aim to be a broker at some point?
No, not every agent aims to be. You kind of have to want to get involved in the business aspect of it. You have to be willing to get your own errors and emissions insurance.
Okay.
Because we're required to carry that. But if your broker has it, you don't have to get it as an agent.
Sure.
So that's one thing. And then you just have to have you have to have a desire to have a team under you, right? But a lot of real estate agents like myself, we kind of are our own business.
Yeah.
We don't really have that desire to really lead a real estate office per se.
What does a office offer, or what can a team offer to a real estate agent? Because I do see you just on your own, like it seems like you do all of the work yourself. Like what can an office or a real estate agency offer to a salesperson individually?
So I want to just delineate something really quickly, because you mentioned, so The idea of a team in real estate is something that my company doesn't really do.
Okay.
Which is cool. I like it. But what I've heard is that real estate teams can be really helpful to a new agent, right? Someone that doesn't really have a lot of clients or contacts going on, and then a good way to start, and then eventually they want to work their way up into being a solo agent. We don't really do that at Emerald. Emerald, we're all solo agents, but Emerald has amazing support for new agents, right? When you first sign up with Emerald, you get business cards, you get a sign writer, you get your own website, right? So every time you go out, you can show them your business card, be like, hey, my website's right here,
Sure.
check me out, right? So and then on top of that, you get training, right? So for your first 6 deals, right, you have a dedicated training manager going to showings with you.
Okay.
Being available during business hours to answer any question that you have, right? And so that's huge, right? Because a lot of places you go to, they don't have any training. So you go there, you're paying monthly. Another thing, we don't have monthly fees either. They have monthly fees that they're paying, desk fees and stuff like that, and they're not even getting the necessary training. So you're just dishing money out, right? It's already expensive enough to be a realtor.
Monthly fees to who?
Monthly fees to the brokerage,
Okay.
right? A lot of brokerages have monthly fees that you kind of like royalty fees, if you will. We don't have any of that. So
Just for the right to sell?
right, for the right to hold your license at that company.
Sure. Okay.
Right. So another thing that we have is like our broker is kind of like an open door policy, right? Like he leaves his door open and he's in the office every day. So if you have an issue, you can walk in there and talk to him.
Okay.
Right, and then we also have a real estate school too, and it's certified and everything, so you can get your certificate through the school. Like you just have everything you need to succeed in Emerald. So that's why I kind of love it there.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And so at this point in your career, I mean, you've been selling real estate for 5 years now. Are there any more certifications or anything that you need, or now is it just building up experience and a client list essentially?
Yeah, to do what I do, you don't need any more certifications. There are other certifications that you can get. There's one that I'm taking a class for property management soon, so that's another avenue that you can get into as an agent, or just as a person in general. There's a commercial real estate certification that I'm considering. So there are, to answer your question, yes, there are different different certifications and stuff like that you can get.
So you could be a real estate agent and a property manager at the same time?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually know someone. I'll shout out her name because she's awesome. Her name's Nancy Cardoza.
Okay.
So she's a solo agent herself, but she also has her own company for property management. She does very well.
And so do you see you do see yourself getting into that?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Perhaps. I'm kind of exploring just the different options. So previously I was someone who had my hands in a lot of different things, right? I was partnered on a project where we were building an app. I had a full-time job doing audio-visual stuff, and I was a part-time agent at the time.
Sure.
So as you can assume, that's hard. That'll be kind of hard to juggle,
Yeah.
right? Doing all those different things, right? So what I learned over the last few years of my career is like you need to be able to focus on one thing so that you can give your 100% on that.
Yeah.
Versus giving 30% here, 20% here, and so on and so forth. And that's how you can really grow. And I've seen the results of that and how my career has grown.
Sure.
So going back to your question, in property management, I see that as something that could potentially be like a way that I can add to my income, but also stay within my lane. So I'm not diversifying so much that, again, my attention is being directed to something unrelated and therefore taken away from my real estate growth.
Sure. Okay. And so being a property manager is much different from being a landlord, or similar?
So it's similar in the fact that you have to have an understanding of the different tenant-landlord laws and the requirements and what you can collect, what you can't. But it's a little different because the property manager doesn't own the property. They just receive a fee to manage the property so that the property owner can then take a step back and not have to be involved in the day-to-day.
Sure.
Right? Like the toilet calls that people always talk about, right? The tenant turnover. So that's kind of where it differs. Like the property manager doesn't own the building itself, but they manage the day-to-day operations.
So those calls, as the property manager, you would be the one dealing with those?
Correct. Or if I had a team, they would deal with it.
Sure, okay. And so, this job, do you see it as fun, or do you just see it as a way to help people and also a way to make money?
So, all of those things.
Okay.
I describe it as a roller coaster ride whenever someone asks me,
Okay.
what is it like being a realtor?
Yeah.
It's filled with ups and downs, right? You know, obviously, it's different. It's different from a 9-to-5 job, where it's like you eat what you kill, right? If you don't work, you're not gonna make a dime.
Yeah.
And when you first become an agent, you could go a year without seeing your first paycheck. For me personally, it took 6 months to see my first one, right?
Okay.
So like you just have to always grind and always work and always be willing to meet new people. But it's great, and it is a great way to help people, because like you're really making a difference. Like for instance, I have a client that closed in 2023, right? Single mother. It was her and her mom buying the house, right? And both of them had to improve their credit. They needed some work, right? So I was able to go over the house, sit down with them, explain to them, look at their credit report, explain to them, hey, we need to fix this, and this, right? Here's exactly how you do that. Here's it broken down into layman's terms, right? Not the crazy, mumbo jumbo, like what's it called? I got to put it in a way where they can understand it, so that they're not, confused, right? So I was able to do that. Fast forward, they ended up closing on a nice house in Somerset.
Amazing.
Now she has a place to have her barbecues, have her mother come over. Her daughter had a baby, so now they had a place to stay.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that's like what makes this job rewarding, is that you're actually helping people accomplish their goals, right? And I like to meet people where they're at, right? So even if they're not ready now, I still take the time to meet with them and talk to them, about, okay, you're not ready now. Here's what we're looking at now. Here's what we need to fix, X, Y, and Z. If you have any questions in the meantime, call me, but this is what you need to work on. We'll talk, in another month or two to track your progress, right?
Okay.
And I coach them all the way through to the point in which they close.
Yes, sir.
So, and then even after that, so, yeah.
So that's part one, everyone. And we're going to have a part two where we hear a little bit more stories and a little bit more about Brandan Burke and his journey with being a real estate agent. Catch us in part two, where we continue this conversation on Wake Up New Bedford. Thanks for watching, and tune in for the next part. Peace.
I'm running,